Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general mid-month reading for the sign of Taurus, Sun, Moon and Descendant, or Ascendant, whichever. Yes, for the last 2 weeks of February. There we go. I'm using the Llewellyn for you today. So if you have not seen these readings before, we do them slightly differently to the main monthly reading, right? We're looking for perspective. This is why it's called looking for the lesson, right? I believe that there is a lesson or wisdom contained within every experience and interaction that we have, if we are able to see it. And sometimes we are not because we're too close to the situation, right? That kind of pulling back and looking at why we're where we are. What is it trying to show us? What is it trying to show us about ourselves? What is it trying to, you know, clear the way for? It's just a spider has just dropped from the ceiling onto me. It's disturbing. All right, whatever. Symbols of good feminine energy, that, you know, hard work and all that sort of thing. Anyway, I've completely lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this? Right, so yes, to that end, what we will do is we'll pull 3 cards to see where you are right now. Right, we'll look at your energy and establish a baseline, and then what we'll do from there is we will ask why you are in this energy at the moment, right? And like I said, it might be trying to show you something about yourself. It might be clearing the way for something new to come in. It might be indicating to you that it is time for something to end. You know, we won't know until the cards hit the table. And then we will close out with 3 cards of advice. So I hope that makes sense to you. I'm sure that it will by the end of the reading. It's just a way of trying to encourage people to really sit in a state of reflection, but be able to detach from the kind of, can be the tragedy of day-to-day circumstances, you know? So, can I have 3 cards for Taurus? Where is Taurus right now, please? I've got 2. 4, apparently. Right, we have the Fool. We have the Knight of Swords. We have the High Priestess, and we have the Knight of Pentacles, right? This is fascinating, Taurus. There's the High Priestess and the Knight of Pentacles were there together. I shall put those in together. We have the 7 of Wands at the bottom of the deck. That can sometimes be a guarded energy, but it can also be a protective energy too. And I noticed that it's got the Temperance card sat right behind it. Interestingly enough, I have just done the Pisces reading, and I mention it because the High Priestess has come out, and that's a Pisces card. And Temperance showed up for them really strongly too. So, you know, we've got this energy of healing and balance and equilibrium, and having sorted out one's emotional state, right? It's a fire element card, but there's always water depicted on it somewhere. And in this one, she's actually right underneath the water there, right? There's no silt kind of, you know, muddying her view there. The waters are absolutely crystal clear. And so perhaps, shut the fucking window, right? Perhaps what we have here is some insight that you've got into why you have felt defensive or guarded about something, or a feeling of protection that is arising within you as you, or a need to be protective perhaps to others, as you sort out how you feel about things, right? As your healing is progressing, as you find your equilibrium and your balance. So let's just pop those to the side for a second, because I do try not to pull any clarifiers, but, you know, I break my own rules all the time, so, you know, whatever. Let's start with the Fool, because this is huge, right? This is a card that speaks immediately of a new cycle, a new stage in your life. It can talk about trust, and it talks also about the willingness to take a risk, right? Just really jump into something without necessarily knowing where you are going to land. Now, I do not remember exactly the content of your main read for February, but I'm sure it revolved around the idea of taking a risk, taking a jump, doing something that a year, 2 years ago would have been so far off your radar, like it just probably would not have even entered your consciousness more than fleetingly. Just kind of like, you could do this thing. No, I'm not doing this thing. You've changed so much that now you feel like this is something that is open to you. So what we have here is I feel like the preparation for it, I mean, this particular Fool card, unlike a lot of others, shows somebody in mid-flight. You know, with the other cards, the other Fool cards that you tend to get in the tarot, we've got somebody who is kind of very, very close to the edge. And there's a little dog kind of yapping around by their feet going, ooh, watch out for the cliff edge and all this sort of thing. But we've got somebody and the dog in mid-flight leaping onto something. So maybe as you are right now in that transitory state of having leapt but not yet landed, right? That can be sometimes a little bit disconcerting, because if you don't know where you're going to land, you can be a bit like, oh God, what have I done halfway through this process? But I don't really feel that for you. It feels like something, this is something that you are invested in, and you're taking the leap now. You have jumped, you have done it. And it's here with the Knight of Swords. Now, that's Gemini energy. Fool is Aries, by the way. And it's about communication. So it could be that you have instigated communication with someone, and if it was a Pisces, I would probably cackle quite a lot, right? It's like, it's an energy of kind of rushing in with your words. You know, it's about expressing what is on your mind. It's a very fast moving energy though. So it doesn't necessarily need to be about communicating with people so much as just how you are finding your mental processes working at the moment. It's almost like they're on fire. They're working so fast. And possibly because you are in mid-flight right now, right? There's the adrenaline of not knowing where you are going to land is seeing you actually, your mind working overtime, right? It's almost like everything's happening in slow motion, but it's not. It's just that your mind is working that fast. Tell me about the Knight of Swords, please. We've got the Ace of Wands has shown its face, but it didn't jump out, so I'm going to shuffle it back in and give it an opportunity to come out again if it wants to. Tell me about the Knight of Swords, please. Oh, I love tarot. That's outstanding. Right. Give me another one for this Knight of Swords, please. We've got the Knight of Cups, and we've got the Six of Swords, but the Six of Swords is in reverse. We have the Justice card at the bottom of the deck. Right. Now, we've got another knight. That's 3 knights that we've got on the table. You are definitely in movement at the moment. There's no doubt about that in my mind whatsoever, right? You are moving in some sort of way, definitely energetically at least, right? But the Ace of Wands is about new creativity, new passion. You know, it's about the things that make your blood run hot, whether those are people or, you know, circumstances, situations. It's a card of the new. It's a very, very big card of the new, if you didn't already have one, which you do, which was the Fool. But this Knight of Cups here, again, Pisces energy actually, but it's about the way that you express what is in your heart. Now, look at this. We've got you finally feeling driven, perhaps, to express what is in your heart to somebody else. Now, this doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. I want to make that really fucking clear, because because there is more to life than relationships, right? You've got to start with the relationship that you have with yourself. This is you talking about something that you are really, really passionate about, something that you are emotionally invested in, and that does not have to be a person. That could be, you know, some sort of big life change that you are making, but it feels like it's given you a level of energy that you have not had before. The interesting thing is with this Six of Swords in reverse is it is a situation that you are coming back to, right? We have that energy of coming back to something, but we also have the energy of something really new starting, not just by way of the actions that you are taking, but in terms of where you are in your life cycle, you know, because we go from the Fool right the way through the major arcana to the World. That's the end card there, and you go, you know, there are 22 cards to go through. And once you hit the World, that's completion, that's an end there, and then you start again here, right? So life is full of these cycles, and sometimes you get cycles within cycles within cycles. It can be a bit mind-bending sometimes. This is you having moved into a new cycle, or moving into a new cycle, and fucking knowing it, really knowing it in your heart. And it feels like it's emboldening you in some way or another. But there is a sense of going back to something. There is some link here with something that you have already done, someone you have already known. You know, it's that kind of energy. And we've got the High Priestess and the Knight of Pentacles. And I love this for you, because even if it is not a Pisces or a Virgo or a Gemini that you are dealing with, if it's situational rather than individual, like a person that you're headed towards, this is a sense of being absolutely guided by your intuition at the moment. And I love to see this for you, Taurus, because you have struggled with that so much over the years, but it is speaking to you very, very clearly at the moment, very clearly, and it's showing you the path that you want to take. Now, these two knights here, the Knight of Swords and the Knight of Cups, they move a little faster than you do naturally. And this is what I'm talking about, this energy and this mind working fast. And actually even the way that you are able to tap into how you are feeling about something. It seems like you're being able to put words to things that you have struggled with before, but it's just here. It's just able to be expressed. The Knight of Pentacles is telling me about the way that you plan to commit to this. There's a very committed energy with the Knight of Pentacles here. There are no shortcuts. There are no assumptions about anything. It's just nose down to the grindstone. Like, here is a precious thing that I have, and I acknowledge it as precious, and I dedicate myself to moving very slowly to my end goal, whatever it is. I mean, this pentacle, this precious thing here, is not something that you would ever give to the Knight of Swords. You would not give it to the Knight of Wands, because, like, I don't know, the Knight of Wands would leave it in a brothel somewhere, right? Or the Knight of Swords will drop it out of his saddlebag. That I was going to call it a pannier, but it's not, it's a saddlebag. He would have dropped it out of his saddlebag and be like 6 miles up the road before he even noticed that it was gone, and then he'd have to come back and recheck, If you want to get something done, this is the night that you use, and it's your night here. It's about slow, careful movement, no assumptions, no room for error, no room for mistake. This is extraordinary. I love this. Oh. We've got the Justice card, the Ace of Cups, and we've got the Hanged Man. Now, as well as this being another fucking Pisces card, like, what the fuck, Taurus? Actually, energetically it kind of makes a lot of sense, because the way that you are tapping into your emotions right now is something that is very natural for a Pisces. And so it makes sense that at this point you're kind of taking on that energy because you are able to talk to your emotions, or maybe it's what's helping you talk to your emotions at the moment, But this Justice card and the Ace of Cups, it feels like a whole renewal of you that's going on at the moment, right? There's a huge rejuvenation of even just the way that you engage with the world at the moment. It's like something's got you really fired up, Taurus, and I love it. This Hanged Man. I mean, it's possible that, you've seen the light somewhat. Like, both the High Priestess and the Hanged Man speak about the acquisition of wisdom, but it comes from an inner place. Like, this is not something that is taught to you by people outside. This only comes from careful and quiet, solitary introspection, I would say. And you seem to have come up with what it is that you really want. And it's like I said, it's got you really fired up, Taurus. Just love to see an excited bull. That's fantastic. So let's have a look and see why you are in this energy at the moment. Okay? Let's get some perspective on this, please. Let's get some perspective. Right. We've got the Five of Swords. We've got the Five of Wands. We've got the Eight of Swords. And we've got the Nine of Cups. And do you know what? Like, I love this for you. I really do. Because we've got the Eight of Wands. Ah, look at this. We've got the Eight of Wands and the Ace of Wands behind it. Now look at this. This is a card that speaks about communication quite often, but it talks about an increase in momentum for me too. The thing is, I think this is the only Eight of Wands that I've got where it shows what I consider to be two-way communication. You've got wands going in both directions here. This is opening up a dialogue. Now, if you have opened up a dialogue with an internal part of you, then that absolutely would be something that we could see here in the cards, but it could well be opening up dialogue with other people too. Ace of Wands, really communicating your passion. And it could be about anything. It could be about a new job that you've seen absolutely lights you up like nothing else you've ever experienced before. You know, it doesn't have to be about relationships or to really nail that home. But what we've got here, I think, is an ironing out. And I like this because you've got all of these uncomfortable cards here. You've got the Five of Swords, you've got the Five of Wands. These are both inherently unstable cards, right? The energy of it is just chaotic as fuck. And you've got the Eight of Swords. And what I love about it is it tops out here at the other end with the Nine of Cups. It's talking about progression, right? We've had the Hangman and the High Priestess. These cards are very careful, internal, well, you know, introspection, consideration, reflection. And we've got how you have ironed out your thought processes here, right? This Five of Swords often talks about the way that we communicate, whether that communication is internally or externally expressed, right? So whether it's how you talk to other people and how they talk to you, or how you think, and so how you talk to yourself, or even how you think about yourself when other people talk to you. You know, it's that kind of energy. But the Five, it's unstable. Like there's something not quite right about it. And it feels to me like you have ironed that out, because we've got this Five of Wands here, a card that talks about conflict and strife, sometimes with other people, but sometimes internally. And again, it's internal for you. So it's ironing out all of these conflicts that you've had with yourself, ironing out all of these possibly doubts and fears, and maybe even some of the ways in which you've thought about things for a long time, because we've got this Eight of Swords here. Like it's a sense of you realizing the ways in which you have held yourself back, the ways in which you have sabotaged yourself somewhat, you know, leading to a point where you can actually identify what it is that makes you happy, how it is that you make you happy, and how, you know, external circumstances and other people are not responsible for that. It all comes from in here. You know, what brings value to your life and how can you bring more of that in, you know? But ultimately, because you have spent all of this time ironing this out, it means your ability to be able to access this and actually be in dialogue with your internal Nine of Cups and go, all right, okay, I'm not going to blame situations or people for things. I'm not going to take too much responsibility, because that's something you do too much, or Taurus, for other people's well-being, mental or otherwise. You know, it is not falling down to me simply because I am a bull to be responsible for everybody else on the planet, right? I need to put me first, and I need to make sure that I'm happy first before I do anything else. Right? It feels like you've got some real emotional clarity going on at the moment, Taurus. I'm here for it all day long. So let's get some cards of advice. Although I'm happy that you are proceeding along nicely, Taurus. Get some cards of advice for Taurus, please. There's the Hanged Man at the bottom of the deck again, right? This huge change in perspective that you've had. What do we got down here? Somebody reversing into my discovery. I was about to get very cross. Not that my discovery is nice and new and shiny or anything like that. It's an old heap, but I love it. Anyway, we have in the advice section here, we have the Judgment card, we have the Devil card, and we have Judgment, Devil, and the King of Pentacles, which is, of course, Taurian energy. Judgment is given to me to be Scorpio, because, well, for lots of reasons, it just feels very Scorpionic to me, to be honest. But it can talk. It's at the bottom of this deck as well. How intriguing! It can talk about the resurrection of past situations, right? Past relationships, all that sort of thing. And possibly for some of you, that might well be a thing here, right? These are coming back up again for resolution in one way or another. And it seems like it's for the new, but it can be talking about the resurrection of other things too, right? So we've got a sense of you going, at least in some way, back to something, but coming at it in a whole new way, whole new fashion, whole new mindset. Completely lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that? Oh, brain injury be damned, right? Yeah, we can totally see that indicated, whatever it was that I just said. But it can also talk about your judgment. It can talk about needing to make or being in the process of making a very big decision, something potentially life-changing. Feels like something's been woken up in you, Taurus, if I'm honest. This judgment card. Ooh, we've got the Queen of Wands. There's more Aries energy. This. And the Three of Swords. Feel like you're taking a whole new look at something from the past that was very, very painful. But you see it now. You get the lesson, right? There's an unflinching energy about the way the Queen of Wands is looking at this Three of Swords here. She's like, oh yeah, I see that. I know what that's about. You know, I have learned from this, and now I can do things differently. It doesn't feel like it's the same situation coming up. It feels like it's different in all sorts of ways, but there are correlations with the past. There you are again, King of Pentacles. Give me one more card for that, please. Emperor. Like, you're just doing it differently. No. You are in charge of the situation rather than the situation being in charge of you. And I think it would do you well to remember that that is your position. Like, you are in charge of you. Ultimately, you are in charge of you. And whatever happens outside of you is not your concern. We just control what we can, and that is really only ourselves. We control our responses to situations. The next card that you've got is the Devil card. And it can be quite a negative card, and the card of Capricorn as well. Actually, I'm going to point out that that's double Aries there. Queen of Wands and the Emperor. It can be the card of Capricorn, and it's given to be quite toxic and you know, it is very devilish energy. It's actually the horned one in this deck here. It can talk about materialism in a good way or a bad way, because there's you know, both there. It can talk about temptation. Don't be tempted to fall back into old habits and clamp down. It's really, yeah, we're like, oh, this is big, right? So we've got the Hermit card at the bottom of the deck. There's Virgo energy. But look, we've got that Five of Wands, and we've got the Knight of Swords showing up in the reverse this time. Now, this is important because you need to speak. You need to express. You need to be able to put words to the feeling that is in here. So if things don't quite go initially as you expect, don't feel like everything's gone wrong. Like, don't catastrophize about this, and don't default back to inner conflict about it. It was like, oh shit, this isn't the way that I saw it. It's obviously wrong. I've obviously got this wrong somewhere. And don't be tempted to clamp down and not speak. It is very, very important for you in this next 2-week period that you speak. Even if you feel slightly conflicted about it, there's a truth that is coming out of you this period, this next 2 or 3 weeks, Taurus. And, you know, whether it is even that it's necessary for anybody else to hear it or not, like, it's the act of speaking that's the important thing for you here, right? Don't be tempted to reverse back into the cave and just be like, oh, I'm not going to say anything. I was obviously wrong. No, don't do that. Remain powerful. Remain powerful. And we've got the King of Pentacles here. With the King of Wands. What about the King of Pentacles and the Moon? Right. Fuck's sake, right? So there's the King of Pentacles has flipped, and the card before it that flipped as well was the Lovers card. So we're gonna talk about those, because this is already out on the table. But the Lovers card is interesting because it does talk about alignment. It talks about coming into union sometimes. And if this is a relationship reading for you, then that augurs quite well. If it is not, it does talk about free will. It talks about consent. It talks about the act of you choosing and you manifesting what it is that you want. Now, I think that you should be prepared for things to go slightly differently than the way that you saw them in your head, the way that you have planned for. But don't default to old patterns here. Like, it's really, really important. Right? You stepping into your power as this double King of Pentacles here, right? Really asserting yourself over this situation. I'm not saying you have to go around and tell everybody that they're wrong, right? There are ways to be fluid in this situation. So listen. Make sure that you are listening and make sure that you are hearing what is said. That's the first thing. Make sure that you are thinking through your responses to things and not just going off the hoof. But be prepared to act. Be prepared to act in the strongest way that it is possible for you to act to get it what it is that you want. This Moon card here, I think, talks about this as yet unrevealed element, right? The aspect of this that will not go quite as you anticipated. But it doesn't mean that everything's fucked. It doesn't mean that everything's gone wrong. It just means it needs a bit of work. It needs a bit of negotiation. But it looks really good for you, Taurus. So I'm going to leave it there. Really hope that was helpful. It's the only intent I ever said. You know that. But until I see you for the March readings, know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.